The pediatrician had suggested trying a gentler formula, something easier on Emma's stomach, something that of course was twice the price. Olivia didn't have the luxury of choices anymore, not when every cent mattered. Not when her bank account balance had slipped into single digits 2 days ago. Not when rent was due in 10 days and her boss had already hinted that he needed more reliable people. Even though she'd only missed one shift when Emma had a fever. But none of that mattered now. The only thing that mattered was feeding her daughter. The coins clinked and rolled as Betty counted them into neat stacks. The people behind Olivia shifted with sighs that scraped across her nerves like nails on glass. A man in a suit muttered something under his breath. A teenage girl snickered. Olivia kept her gaze glued to the counter. Willing herself not to cry, Emma whimpered softly from the stroller, her tiny fists waving, her cheeks flushed. Olivia reached down, brushing her fingers across her daughter's warm forehead. "It's okay, baby," she whispered. "Mama's got you." Betty looked up. "It's all here," she announced gently. $27.43. Relief washed over Olivia's body like sudden sunlight. She nodded, unable to speak. Betty slid the can of formula toward her, bagged it with care, and gave her a reassuring smile. "Take care of that little one," she said. Olivia swallowed hard. "Thank you." She pushed the stroller toward the automatic doors, the cold evening air prickling her skin as she stepped outside. The sun had set an hour ago, leaving the parking lot bathed in a sickly mix of orange streetlights and creeping shadows. Cars rushed past on the main road, their headlights streaking across her tired vision. Her phone buzzed. Another payment reminder. Another bill she couldn't afford. She ignored it. She tucked the formula into the stroller's storage pouch and began the 30-minute walk back to her apartment. She couldn't risk using the bus again, not after last time when the driver had sighed, rolled his eyes and said, "You need exact change." Lady, while people stared like she was trash, footsteps echoed behind her, heavy and steady. She froze. Just a jogger passing by, her heart thumped painfully. The night air was colder now, sharp enough to bite through her thin jacket. She pulled it tighter and walked faster. Street lamps flickered overhead, some buzzing weakly, casting long, ghostly beams across empty sidewalks. Emma slept again, the rhythmic squeak of the stroller lulling her. Halfway home, a gust of wind sent a tattered flyer skittering across the pavement. Olivia caught sight of the bold letters as it slapped. Against a lamppost, hiring airport catering assistants. Full-time, immediate, start. Her breath hitched. She needed a job. A better one. One that paid enough to actually live. But airport jobs required background checks, she sighed. She didn't have time for long waits. She didn't have a babysitter. She didn't have a car horn blared, pulling her from her thoughts. She jerked the stroller closer to her body, gripping the handlebar tight. When she finally reached the apartment building, her shoulders sagged with exhaustion. The elevator was, of course, out of service again. She dragged the stroller up to flights of stairs, each step heavier than the last. Inside the apartment, she locked the door and exhaled shakily. A single overhead bulb flickered. The air was stale, carrying faint traces of damp plaster and old cooking oil from the neighbor's unit. She sat Emma gently on the worn couch and prepared a bottle with the new formula. When Emma drank it without crying, Olivia nearly wept with relief. Maybe things would get better. Maybe tomorrow would be kinder. After Emma fell asleep, Olivia sat at the small, wobbly kitchen table and opened her laptop. The screen glowed dimly. It was always dim now because the backlight was failing. She quickly searched airport jobs hiring now and clicked through postings. Most required availability for night shifts. She couldn't do nights. She had Emma, but then one caught her eye. Passenger Services Assistant, Falcon Air. Flexible shifts. Day hours available. Training provided. Her pulse fluttered. Falcon Air was huge. reputable, and the pay more than double her current job. She clicked apply now. Name, address, phone number, work experience, emergency contact. Her hands trembled slightly as she typed, praying she hadn't made any spelling mistakes. When she reached the section for additional comments, she hesitated and typed, I learn fast. I'm reliable. I work hard. I just need a chance. She clicked submit and watched the spinning circle load. Finally, your application has been received. She closed the laptop and leaned back in her chair, letting her eyes drift shut. The weight she'd been carrying for months pressed harder against her chest. And yet, something in her felt a flicker of hope. That night, a storm rolled in. Rain hammered the building, thunder rattled the windows, and the wind howled like something alive. Emma slept peacefully, but Olivia lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every mistake she'd ever made. Her ex, Liam, had left 4 months after Emma was born. Too much responsibility, he'd said. Not ready for fatherhood. She hadn't seen him since Dave and Tone. Her phone buzzed again. She grabbed it, expecting a bill, then froze. Falcon Air Recruitment. Application under review. Your resume has been shortlisted. Interview scheduled tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Tears slipped down her cheeks before she could stop them. She had less than 24 hours to prepare. The next morning was chaos. Emma woke up earlier than usual, crying hard. The new formula seemed to help, but she still fussed. Olivia changed her twice, fed her, rocked her, and prayed she would nap long enough for Olivia to get ready. She didn't have formal clothes. She didn't have makeup. She didn't have anything professional looking, but she had a black blouse and clean jeans, and that would have to do. She dropped Emma off with her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Turner, who had agreed to watch her for 2 hours in exchange for helping with groceries next week. You go and get that job, the old woman said kindly. You deserve a break. Olivia hugged her tightly. Thank you. I mean it. The bus ride was long and bumpy, but she reached the airport on time. She followed signs to the recruitment office and waited in a row of plastic chairs. People beside her wore suits, crisp skirts, polished shoes. She felt like she didn't belong when her name was called. She took a deep breath and stepped inside. A tall woman with a sleek bun greeted her. Good morning, Olivia. I'm Karen. The room smelled faintly of citrus and new carpet. Olivia sat down, hands clasped. Tell me about yourself, Karen said. She wanted to say everything about the sleepless nights, the coins, the fear of losing everything, but she didn't. Instead, she said, I work hard. I don't give up. I'm good with people, and I learn quickly. Karen smiled. That's good to hear. This job is demanding, but it's also rewarding. They talked for 20 minutes. When the interview ended, Karen stood and shook her hand. We'll be in touch soon. Outside the office, Olivia exhaled shakily. She had no idea whether she'd done well or not. She rode the bus home, hoping, praying that something would go right. She opened her apartment door and froze. A letter was lying on the floor. From Falcon. Air taught her heart pounded as she tore it open. Dear Olivia Mitchell, congratulations. You have been selected for training. Please report to Terminal 2. Gate 18 next Monday. Her knees buckled, and she sank to the floor, sobbing with relief as Emma babbled, happily beside her. It felt like her life was finally beginning again, but she had no idea that within 2 weeks, she would be standing on an airplane runway, drenched in sweat and terror. As 180 desperate passengers screamed for help, and the pilot's trembling voice would echo through the cockpit. We need Falcon, now. And Olivia, quiet, tired, overlooked Olivia, would become their only chance at survival.